Alright, what's up? Tim Sykes, millionaire mentor trader here on a jet that I chartered all alone. Two of my friends, not one, but two of my friends who were supposed to join me, they both got sick. I'm not risking it. You know, it's kind of a scary time right now in the world, so if you're even feeling a little bit ill, I'm sorry, we're just not gonna, hang out. Maybe I'm like too crazy about it, but knock on wood, I have yet to really get sick in the past year, and I think that's just me being extra safe. And like I said, I'm on this jet that I chartered because I'm actually going to visit another one of my students, and he's not sick. I'm pretty excited to just meet up with people who are really having a lot of success in this crazy market. I want to be very clear in this video. Most traders lose money. The reason why I can charter this jet is not with trading profits, because I actually donate 100% of my trading profits to charity. I charter this jet with my main income, which is teaching. And I want to be very clear about that so that you understand where my priorities are. There's a lot of people, they have like free chat rooms. They're getting paid by companies. They're taking giant positions and trying to lure people into these pumps. I never want you to follow my alerts. I never want you to follow anybody's alerts. The reason why I even alert and share my ideas in real time is to teach you the patterns, to teach you my thinking, my mindset, my planning, because that can only help with your process. So I don't want you to think I'm like bragging, look, this is the jet that I own. I don't own it. I just charter it. My guy is Flight King. I highly suggest you hit him up. He gives me great deals. I got this for a bargain basement price of roughly $16,000 for a few hours. And like I said, I'm going to visit students. I'm going to get them on video because I want to share their process. So I want to be totally clear. Like, I really believe I'm probably like the best helper, the best chance that you have at success in an industry where most people fail, because everything that I do is aligned with you. I'm trying to visit students who are really banking so that they can, show you what's working best. I don't keep any of the trading profits, so it doesn't make any difference whether I make or lose money on a trade. I'm trying to show you my plans in real time so that you can learn. Obviously, I want to try to still make money because I want to donate as much as I can to charity. But last year in 2020, record trading year for myself, made nearly $1.2 million in trading profits, all donated. And my charity actually donated nearly $2 million for the year because we have a great community. I'm actually wearing charity merch with this hat and this hoodie. This is all recycled materials. So I'm trying my best to help the world, to help the planet. I know I'm flying on a jet, so there's, carbon emissions, but I also offset all of my travel with the carbon fund. You should look into it. I think that just tackles all the conspiracy theories, all the negativity, all the hate that I get when I make these videos. I just want you to learn, and if you start recognizing that I'm here to teach you, then you can really start maximizing your education, which can only help you and lead to potential success. I can't guarantee you profits. Like I said, most people in this industry lose. I'm not a broker. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who's been trading for 20 plus years. You're welcome to ignore my rules, my patterns, whatever. I'm just trying to teach you. So on to today's lesson. I got a question the other day. I always talk about first green day. What is a first green day? So there's a ton of different patterns that I've used over the past 20 plus years. There's no one magic formula that has now made me over $6 million in the stock market. But there are a few key patterns. And first green days are working so well right now in the beginning of 2021 and for the majority of 2020. Not every time, more times than not, that's the key. And rule number one is cut losses quickly when it doesn't work out. But basically, I'm buying a strong stock, a strong OTC stock, ideally, near the close, like 3:40, 3:50, 3:55 p.m. Eastern. because OTC stocks do not trade after hours. They do not trade pre-market. And if I choose the right OTC pattern, it can theoretically gap up on the second day after the first big green day. And what I mean by, closing strong on the first big green day, it's, every day, every play is different. But a stock that's up 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% on the day, it's already spiking. A lot of people say, why are you buying a stock that's already spiking? Don't you want to buy it before it spikes? No. I want to buy it after it's been spiking for a little bit, because the beautiful thing with penny stocks, just like the first 4 minutes of this video, I have to explain the basics over and over and over again. Forget about just most traders losing. Most people don't even understand that they're investing in, basically scams or speculative companies. But most people don't look at patterns. They don't have rules. They're falling for what the promoters preach. They're saying, oh, this company is curing, cancer. This company just found $1 billion worth of gold in Peru. This company has a new technology that's going to be the wireless technology. It's all BS, okay? And if I can teach you to be cynical, rule number one is cut losses quickly, but also just expect the worst out of every company. Expect the worst out of every stock. Expect the worst out of every trade. And that way, if you're like that kind of like cynical mindset trader that I encourage, it's really tough to lose big, because you're always like just freaked out. You're like a squirrel, like looking around, who's going to steal my nut? Like, you're just freaked out all the time. And most traders don't like being like that. Most traders are like, give it some time, Tim. Maybe it'll work out. And I'll tell you, a lot of the time I do exit too early. I cut losses and then the stock re-spikes. Sometimes, I take small gains and then it spikes up more. But I just always learned to really be cynical, because I've seen some crazy stuff over my 20 plus years. So first green day, I'm buying a stock that has already spiked, but I'm betting that it can spike some more. Because with penny stocks, a lot of people aren't following these moves in real time. No real major financial news media covers these small stocks in real time. So even if a company has big news, or if a company has, some big promotion going on, most people don't hear about it until day 2. Most people are not meticulous. That opens up the opportunity on the first green day. If you start to realize, oh, people can't buy OTC stocks after hours. People can't buy pre-market. So what that does is, a lot of people who hear about whatever the stock is and the promotion is between 4 p.m. Eastern, when the U.S. stock market closes, and 9:30 a.m. Eastern the next day. So we're talking roughly 17 and a half hours over the course where no one can buy a stock, no matter how exciting the news is. And that usually leads to, kind of like this powder keg, this pressure cooker of buy orders right at the open the next day. And if the news is good enough, if the volume is good enough, if the market is hot enough, like I said, 2020 was the best year in not just years, but in decades. 2021 has started out very hot as I'm filming this. This is January. I'm trying to look on the screen. The data is all off. January 11th, 2021, I'm filming this. And I'm actually long AABB overnight. It's the first green day. They don't even have any news. It's just a hot sector, and it has a history of gap ups and multi-day spikes. You don't even need news. It could just be about the pattern if the market is hot enough. And right now the market is hot enough. In a slow market, I would not necessarily risk it, because just like I'm saying, like, oh, you can't put in any buy orders for 17 and a half hours. What if there's negative news? What if there's no buyers? What if it's gone too far on the first green day? You get a pressure cooker of sell orders at the market open the next day, and that can create a panic. So I'm betting that the imbalance will shift towards more buyers than sellers. If there's more buyers than sellers at the market open, the stock will gap up and potentially spike up more, 10%, 20%, 30%, that's all I want. But if I'm wrong, and there's no buyers, it could very easily panic 10, 20, 30%. So that's the risk that I'm taking. You have to know the market. You have to know your risk level. If it is a morning panic, I might not be able to get out. So no matter how confident I am in any one trade, I never go too big because I don't want to get stuck in a morning panic. This has been one of my hottest patterns lately. I will say that it's not an exact science, like I said. And if your goal is met before the close, like let's say you're buying an OTC first green day, it's up, I don't know, 50, 60, 70%, and you're buying it at 3:30, 3:40 p.m., and then by 3:50, 3:55, 3:59 p.m., you know, you've already made 10, 20, 30%. There's no rule that says you have to hold overnight. Some of my best plays have been trying to buy it in anticipation of the first green day, but if it's already hit my goals before the market close, I have no problem selling it. I don't have to hold it overnight. I don't necessarily need that overnight risk. Sometimes I have taken a stock overnight and I should have sold it. My biggest loss in years, LLLI, it's a kind of a civil unrest play, and there were riots and protests the other day in Washington. I held this stock long overnight because I thought, oh, first green day OTC, it was up like 200%. I had already locked in $4,000 in profits. With like 5 minutes to go, I had another $4,000. So I easily could have taken, you know, the profits and made $8,000 on the day, but I went for it. I got greedy in hindsight. I thought that there would be more civil unrest overnight. There wasn't. The police and the National Guard did a great job, you know, just shutting down violence, and the stock tanked the next day, and I actually lost like $6,000. So it was like, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda made 8,000. Instead, I lost $6,000, but I still made $4,000 earlier. So best case scenario, could have made $8,000. As it turned out, I lost about $2,000 overall. So that's a $10,000 swing. That's a lot of money for a lot of people. I don't really feel guilty about it because most protests and riots, unfortunately, do last several days. So I went with, you know, what usually happens in history. This time, like I said, you know, I don't like rooting for civil unrest. I'm just trying to partake in the pattern. I'm actually glad that there wasn't, you know, any more civil unrest overnight. But I got squashed. And what did I do? Rule number one, I cut losses quickly. I took the roughly $6,000 loss right near the market open. It didn't bounce at all day. By the end of the day, I would have been down, if I was still holding, I think I would have been down like another $7,000 or $8,000. So it actually would have been like a $20,000 swing if I hadn't cut losses quickly. So that's the risk. So be very careful if you are going to hold the stock overnight. Another reason why I like OTCs is just because they're such crappy companies, they usually can't even get financings done. A lot of people ask me, why don't you hold NASDAQs overnight? It's the same kind of gist, like they're still penny stocks. Most people haven't heard about them on day one. But the difference is that NASDAQs, it's a different exchange. They're slightly more legitimate companies, and sometimes they do offerings. They raise money into their stock spikes. It's a scumbag move. It's very unethical, but it's not illegal. And, you know, usually when there's offerings with these penny stocks, they sell shares, but at like a 20, 30, 40, 50% discount. So when there's an offering, the stocks usually crash. A lot of biotechs do this. So if you're ever buying a biotech stock on the first green day, be very careful, because they oftentimes use whatever stock spike they have in order to raise more money, because they're all basically borderline bankrupt, and they're just trying to raise money to stay in business. With OTCs, because they're so incompetent, because they're so scammy, very rarely can they even pull together an offering. So it actually decreases the risk, as crazy as that sounds. But some good OTC first green days. I want to bring up probably the best example that I have in the past few years. If you attended my Orlando conference, not in 2020 because we didn't have one because of what's going on with the world, but in 2019, we had an Orlando conference Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Saturday and Sunday we went over a lot of rules, a lot of lessons. Monday was live trading. In the past with live conferences, I always try to make trades, good or bad, people can learn. But in 2019, I'm like, no, I'm not going to force a trade. I'm going to wait for a good setup. And it was kind of a slow market in 2019. And so all day, me, Kyle Williams was up on stage, Michael Good was up on stage, Jack Kellogg was up on stage. At the time, Kyle Williams, I think, might have made like 100 or 200,000. Jack might have been at like 100 or 200,000. Dom was up on stage. He had made like 100 or 200,000. Michael Good had made like 2 million, but none of us were trading. And literally people come from all over the world to these conferences, and we're going to try to have one in 2021, so stay tuned. I don't have details yet. Stop messaging me. But I mean, all Monday long, people want me to make a trade, and I'm not making a trade. I didn't see anything. Some people had already left. So by like, I'm tired. I have something in my eyes. So by like 3 p.m., 3:15 p.m., some people had left. You know, during the breaks, they shook hands with me. They're like, oh, good conference. I would have liked to see a live trade, but there's nothing. I respect your patience. And then with like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to go, there was a good first Green Day OTC pattern because Dan Bilzerian, who has like 30 million followers on Instagram, he also has his own weed company, and he posted on his Instagram story about his weed company, and he posted the US ticker. It's a Canadian company, but it was BILZF, which is the US counterpart. I don't trade Canadian stocks, but BILZF started spiking in reaction to his Instagram story. And I saw it was up like 10-15%, but I'm thinking to myself, it's not on your main Instagram feed. You have two different things. Your main feed, which is what most people see, and then lesser people see stories. So people aren't getting notified of his story, but people will see it over the next 17 and a half hours. Like I said, with the first Green Day OTC, I'm just looking for a catalyst that's going to get people to put in their buy orders at the market open on day 2. So I bought, I think it was like 8,000 or 9,000 shares, like in the 130s. It had already hit the 140s. It was a little off the highs, but I thought that it could gap up to the 150s, maybe the 160s on day 2. The stock closed. I had a chance to take a profit. I could have made $800, you know, live in front of everyone who was at the conference. People were like rooting for me to take the profits so they could, like, you know, go home and say, hey, I saw Tim Sykes, you know, make $800 live. It's not huge, but it was a good live trade. And I said, no, I'm not going to sell before the close. I want to hold it overnight and try to participate in this 17 and a half hour kind of window of opportunity. Michael Good, I think, bought the stock too, and he sold it before the close. You know, a lot of people went home and they're like, you should have sold it. I'm like, I'm gonna let the pattern play out. Sure enough, the stock gaps up to 2 the next day. I sold it, I think, around 190, and I made a few $1,000s. Within 10 or 15 minutes of me selling, it went to 4 because the market makers just basically screwed everybody, you know, who put in their buy orders. In Dan Bilzerian's crowd, not the most financially sophisticated, so they're using market orders to buy, which means no limit. The market makers see probably, I don't know, 10,000, maybe 20,000 people with market orders, and they're like, let's just push this stock up and fill them all at 354. Because when you use a market order, you don't put a limit. Always use limit orders, never use market orders. Sometimes you will get screwed. So I had already sold it, but I was just watching in like amazement how much it went up. I bought it in the 130s and more than tripled the very next morning. That was the most perfect first Green Day OTC because Dan Bilzerian's followers saw the Instagram story over the 17 and a half hours that the market was closed, and they all put in their buy orders on day 2. That is a perfect example of an OTC first Green Day. It doesn't always work out that perfect. Like I said, remember, 90% of traders lose. And literally every single person who bought BILZF in the 3s or the 4s or even in the 2s basically got screwed. It went down. Right now it's trading around 40-45 cents a share. So a lot of people are like, oh, screw penny stocks, screw Bilzerian. No, screw yourself. Screw your lack of preparation. Never use market orders. Never follow the crowd. That's your mistake. So this, in a nutshell, is why I teach. I want you to be meticulous in this crowd of fools, in this crowd of people who don't understand time, they don't understand, market inefficiencies. And if you study up, if you watch enough of my videos, I mean, this isn't a very technical video, but I'm still explaining the basis of a first Green Day, why it works so well. No different than my first $100,000 profit. I'm going to post a link to my best-selling book, An American Hedge Fund. If you read chapter 6, you can learn about my first $100,000 profit. It was the first Green Day on a Friday back in the year 2000. Some people will say, oh, that was 20 plus years ago. It's the same exact pattern. The patterns haven't changed. I'm basically just a glorified history teacher. And when you make 100 grand in a day as a college freshman, when I couldn't even get into like bars, I was like downloading illegal movies on Merc, like I was a loser, and I made 6 figures in one day. That was 20 plus years ago. That opened my mind up to all the opportunities and the potential. So it's been a wild ride for 20 plus years. Not every play is going to make you 100 grand. Not every play is going to be like Bilzerian. Some of them might be like my LLI trade, where you think you have solid catalysts, you think it's going to lead to a gap up the next day, and it turns into a morning panic. But I encourage you to study the past, because while industry disclaimers say past performance is not indicative of future returns, I do find the more I study the past, the luckier I get. If you want to say that I'm lucky, the harder I work, the more that I study, the luckier I get. That's what it comes down to. I am just a glorified history teacher, and I remember every single big trade that I've made over 20 plus years. I remember every single bad trade, and I remember most of the ones in between. And you can learn a lot, and you find what works best for you. You find, your sweet spot, like what's your goal on a trade and what's the most you're willing to risk. Everyone's different. Every single person watching this has a different goal. And I find too many people are like, oh, I want to be in this stock because this other person's in this stock. No, do not follow alerts. Do not follow anybody else, okay? You have to focus on what works best for you. All of my top students started with small accounts in the beginning. They started paper trading in the beginning. They figured out what patterns, what setups worked. They found out their sweet spot for what dollar amount they wanted to make on a trade. They found out what they were willing to risk when they were wrong. Like, if you cut losses quickly, can you sustain a $50 loss? Can you stomach a $100 loss? Tim Grittani, my top student, not to blow your mind, but he's over $14 million in profits now after starting with $1,500. Understand he's an outlier. This hasn't happened to anybody else, so don't think that you're the next Tim Grittani. But you can learn from his process. And $1,500 to $14 million now, he now calls a paper cut $10,000. He's willing to lose up to $10,000 on one trade when he's wrong, because he's trading with bigger size. But if you go back and look at the beginning of what Tim Grittani was trading, you can see his early trades. He would write trading implosion when he lost like $12 or he lost like $40. So don't feel bad if you're starting small. Don't feel bad if you're paper trading. Understand it's a process. Tim Grittani has been my student now. We're coming up on 10 years in May. Okay? So 9 3/4 years, and he's stuck with it, and he has been far and away my most successful student. But he followed the right path. He trusted the process, and he found what works best for him. So if you try OTC first Green Days, but you don't like overnight trades, so be it. You don't have to like everything that I do. You don't have to trade every pattern that Tim Grittani does. All I'm saying is try stuff and you start to find your favorite patterns. I like to be in and out very quickly. Some people are like, Tim Sykes, you have the patience of an ant. And I'm like, yeah, that's accurate. That's how I trade. I'm proud of it. I teach it. I have seen a lot of crap over the years, and I like safety first. By all means, be more aggressive when you have more experience, when you have, more success under your belt. in the beginning, I think it's good to be paranoid. I think it's good to trade like a coward. But I can only teach you what I've learned and what I know. Anyone is free to ignore my rules, my patterns, my setups. I'm just trying to teach you what I've discovered and refined with my own process over 20 plus years. Leave a comment below. Let me know if this video helped you. I'm gonna get a drink. My voice, I'm like screaming to try to, get above these jet engines. It's not easy.